Hello, dear astrology friends and fans. I am Satanga, and I'm here again today to talk about this Cancer Capricorn Eclipse season. My spirit has been nagging me for a while to talk about this. For some time. um, the thing is that let's see. Oh, okay. So yeah, if you are there live, you can use the chat, and I will try to. If you have questions, I will try to answer at the end. But for now, I'm going to try to articulate these ideas that I would like to share with you. So, at the brink of the news, I am very saddened because of this news about children being used and abused sexually and otherwise. So there's no need for me to mention the news, what the news are, because they are uh, in the ears of everybody. But what I want to talk specifically today is about what is the meaning of this eclipse season, especially because we have this upcoming Saturn Pluto conjunction in Capricorn in January, right? So, as I said before, and I wrote about it in my blog, this conjunction is nothing that we have experienced before. Is nothing that is going to be an everyday transit in the sky. It's a kind of energy that is kind of unique in these times. The last time that this conjunction happened was in 1500s, early 1500s. And I think I mentioned before, the main event that at that time was that Martin Luther King posted a series of statements showing or expressing the power that had the church had taken, and they were using that power to subject the people under this power, and having them pay for pardons and for religious services, and so it was a questioning of authority. It was a question of power. It was he was questioning the power of a certain segment of society over another segment of society, right? Does it look familiar? Anyways, but what I'm trying to explain here is there was someone also. I watched a video. Someone reminding us that the previous time this conjunction happened was in 1278, I think, or in the 1200s. So this lady looked up the events on that. I'm going to put the link in the description box so you can watch her video, which I think is symbolically is significant. So the significant and an important event that transcended all these hundreds of years was the Hamelin, who in a tunnel or a cave or something like that, and they disappeared forever. The Pied Piper and the children. So, children is the theme in this conjunction, Saturn, Pluto, and Capricorn. And as I said, this is not a conjunction in Capricorn that will happen every day. So this is significant. It's significant collectively. And why is it so? So what my spirits have been telling me, and I've been reflecting much about this. I mean, I have my own children. I have been a child, so I perfectly understand what is going on. So, oh, sorry. So there is this polarity between Cancer and Capricorn, right? Cancer is our emotional, most intimate emotional body. It is it's represented symbolically by home, by family, and the place where we feel safe, where we feel comfortable, where we can thrive. It's a place where we can be ourselves, be authentic, and be free. And mainly, we can express ourselves without restraint, right? Because it's a safe container. And it's represented, the sign of Cancer is represented by the crab. You know, the crab stays in its shell. It walks sideways because it avoids obstacles and things like that. And he is going emotionally. The crab represents those emotions that avoid confrontation, that like to be inside, protected, not exposed. So that's the side of the human life that Cancer represents. Now, Capricorn are the outside structures of society that help for everybody to be able to have that safety, that emotional safety, right? Because if there are no laws, if there are no regulations, if there are no conventional things, right? Like language is a convention, laws are conventions. So social conventions are necessary. Structures, limits, right? Boundaries are necessary in order for us to be protected. Like the walls of our house are supposed to protect the family, right? To help us be safe. So, the place where I'm going with this is that the structures of our society have been built on the yang energy, which is the masculine energy, the outgoing energy. It meant for thousands of years, it meant the man power, meaning that the man is the one who provides for the family. The man is the one who has the authority over women. The man is the one that rules over everything, that dictates laws, etc. So this is a structure and a convention that has been ingrained in most of our cultures now in the world for thousands of years. So it's something that is in our brains, in our almost genetically, we have this ingrained inside of us, thinking that that's the way it goes, right? However, and in many societies, right, still today, the men dictate how, if the woman is going to drive, if the woman can work outside the house, and etc. So there are societies who are more evolved, others that are behind, they're falling behind. But in any case, I am generally speaking of the general and the collective um, structures of society, right? I know there are in Tibet, for example, there are matriarchal societies where the mother and the woman is the one who leads the family. And in fact, there is a society where the woman has several husbands that work for the family, right? And so there are all kinds of different societies. In Africa, they work more as extended families, some of them. So, but in our Western society, conventions are more patriarchal, right? And what happens is that over thousands of years, this has been degenerating into something that is not protecting any longer. That is not. That is not. The purpose is not any longer to protect and to provide safety, to provide the limits that we need in order to thrive. And I don't mean that the family, I don't want to be misinterpreted here. I don't mean that the family should be a father who rules over the family, and the woman has to obey and the children have to obey, because we've seen that it's not working. It's not working because there needs to be, the symbol of yin and yang in Chinese Oriental philosophy, where there's a white, it's kind of an oval thing. It's a white piece and a black piece, and they have a dot, the opposite, white in black, and in black and white. So that symbol represents the need to have an equal balance, right? So between yin and yang, because that's the reason why there is those two energies, because they need to balance themselves. So there is no need for one to be over the power over the other one, because they need to work together. In fact, when, for example, when in the act of procreation, right, the two energies get together, and there is no one more powerful than the other. Both have the same equal level of power. So if you have had children, you know what I'm talking about. So in the sexual intercourse, there is no one energy that is stronger than the other. They're both complementing each other, and they're both necessary in order for life to be generated and for life to thrive. So we've come in our society to a point where the structures, the conventions, the social boundaries are set up in order for this young energy to be used and abused. For example, uh, using children. I mean, there's not only the sexual abuse of children, which is terrible, but children are being trained to go to war, to kill. Children are in other places are used to work in very filthy kinds of jobs. I mean, in Africa, digging into piles of trash and extracting metals or any other kind of material in order for us to enjoy our good life, with gadgets and things like that. So children are abused and trafficked all over the world for different reasons. So it's not just one aspect. So, and what I want to talk about here is about this wounded child. This wounded child is the that we see on the screen of the TV, on the news, that we read on papers, is just the mirror of our wounded child inside. So, how many of us have come from a healthy family where there was everything was easy, everything was happy-go-lucky? So very few. If you are to raise your finger, because uh, I haven't met many people who come from that kind of healthy family. Even the most beautiful families have their shortcomings. And why? Because we are carrying over to this life traumas from previous lives. And even if we have good intentions on being fair and being loving and being good and fair parents, we fail sometimes. And why do we fail? Because we live unconscious, and this unconsciousness comes from past life traumas. So what happens is that we let me see if I can articulate this. Um, there is a wounded child inside of us. So how many of us have been abused, abandoned, rejected in early childhood, or separated from parents? I mean, there is, in the news, we see children abused, enslaved, abandoned, rejected, separating and torn apart from their families because of human laws, inhuman laws, and regulations, and concepts and conventions in society that allow this. So this is reflective of how many of us are wounded inside. So we grow up from those dysfunctional families, and we end up hurting others because we have been hurt. Then we, consciously or unconsciously, we end up hurting others, right? So, and even our children end up in the psychotherapy, and some of us or our children end up uh, adopting escapist behaviors, addictions of any kind, and others look for healing, and trying to heal that. But most of us, and many of us, have this wounded child inside of us. And this is because of this young energy that is dominating society in a forceful way. So this young energy is dominant, is selfish, is oppressive, and it looks only for the self-satisfaction, satisfying desires, and the need to do and to have. So, and I'm not only talking about men, I'm talking about the yang energy that is in all of us. So, meaning that even women, we are oftentimes driven by this force of desiring and having and accumulating and and trying to control the world, to control the environment, as opposed to the energy that is there to feel, to be in the moment, to live. Right? How many times we go, for example, you go on vacation, right? And instead of sitting there and watching this beautiful sunset at the beach and and lying there and being overwhelmed by the emotions and taken away by this moment, we just spend the time taking pictures, and I'm guilty of that. I mean, we take pictures and we move on, and we want to do other things. So what happens is that this energy is only satisfying this escapism. Um, we have become selfish and miser, thinking that we lack things and we need more. We need a house, we need a car, we need a partner, we need this or that in order to feel safe, when we are ourselves destroying the safety because of too much masculine energy and outgoing energy, the yang energy. So we are just creating our own suffering. So when that's what happens when we become adults and we feel we fall pride uh, we fall pride. Okay. We fall into these behaviors that hurt ourselves, and if we cannot obtain what we want, then we get frustrated, and if we get frustrated for a long time, then we get depressed, and we don't know what else to do. Oh, just a minute, I need a cable because my computer is in red. The battery is just a second. Sorry. Okay, so another one. Okay, so let's see. Okay, so we are orphans looking for a home, right? I wanted to so I had disconnected the light to just a second. Okay, now. Okay, so we have become orphans in this system, in this establishment of designed by this young, selfish, and forceful energy. So, what is really calling us to do is to build this safety in a different manner, and to find a balance between this Cancer and this Capricorn. We need to find the safety with a more of an emotional approach instead of always thinking that things need to be this way because this is the way that it's always been, and this is the boundaries, and this is the walls that we cannot uh, cross, and so the harsh rocks of Capricorn, the dry and cold stones of Saturn. Uh, so this is something that needs to be softened by this mushy thing inside of the crab of Cancer. So there is a need to rebalance, to come to a compromise, right? But this is not something to say, well, we need to, for example, some people think that the patriarchal, I've heard people saying the patriarchal is falling. And well, in a way, it is, there is this need to soften that part. There is a need to restructure that, to transmute that kind of energy in a way that is no longer selfish, that is no longer abusive or forceful, or so limiting and so harsh, and so dry, right? So that's the way that we can start, by doing that inside ourselves. There is no change outside until we change inside. So and remember, we have everything. We have the cosmos inside of us. So we have all the tools and all the good energy that we need inside of us in order to build this new paradigm. Uh, and I'm not saying that the world should become matriarchal. I am saying that we need to reconcile both energies in order to work together in harmony. There is no one energy overpowering the other, but both working in harmony, both working for the same goal, which is generating life and thriving and achieving happiness. There is no happiness while one person is overpowering the other. There's no way to find life. I mean, these people who abuse children sexually, they may have a few seconds of pleasure, which in a normal way, it's fine to have pleasure, but not at the expense of abusing someone else or overpowering someone else, or with violence. There's no happiness in that. We will never be happy that way. So the only way to work these energies is to balance them. That's why they are opposite. Cancer is opposite Capricorn for a reason, because they are facing each other and they need to compromise in order to be able to work together. And that's the purpose. Work together. So another thing that is very revealing is the degrees sapient symbols for the eclipses. So I was looking at the most recent one was yesterday, the lunar eclipse at 24 degrees of Capricorn. And these are the symbols given by Dane Rudier through inspiration. So this is a symbol that he called a woman entering a convent. And this is the explanation that he gives to that. the total commitment to a transcendental goal. A convent is a place made available by a community which believes in the possibility of reaching world transcending states of consciousness. It's made available to individuals who may be variously motivated. To some, it's an escape from the intolerable pressures of family and society. To others, it represents the possibility of pursuing in peace a spiritual ideal to which the whole being aspires and is totally dedicated. The important point is in this phase of the cyclic process is that the existence of the convent expresses another aspect of the relationship between the society, its religion and culture, and the individual. In the preceding symbol, society rewarded the individual for noble performance in its service. Here, this 24th degree of Capricorn, society accepts the fact that beyond its daily normal patterns of behavior and commitments, another way of life exists, which, in a higher sense, also has social value. In the old Hindu society, dominated by a rigid caste system, the ideal embodied in the sannyasi, the wandering holy man or yogi meditating in a forest or a cave who had entirely given up all the caste implied, was seen to be the very culmination of the social process. So, and I want to repeat that this ideal embodied in the sannyasi or the renunciation was seen to be the very culmination of the social process. In this fourth stage symbol, we see the paradoxical nature of the social process operating more strongly than ever. This derives from the fact that man's nature contains in seed the possibility of overcoming and transcending itself in acts of complete denial of a surrender to a higher law or quality of being. All spiritual techniques are indeed paradoxical. Rigid discipline conditions pure inner freedom. Rigid discipline conditions pure inner freedom. The final goal is the attainment of transcendent security. Transcendent security. So there is this need of reconciling, right? Reconciling the power, our nature is the society is helping our nature, our human nature. It shouldn't be in detrimental of it. So we are the goal. The goal is to achieve transcendent security, not just the regular security that we check in the airport, right? In order not to burst the plane and with it, but the transcendent security of our soul. So let's now take a look at 24th degrees of Cancer, because the eclipse was a lunar or a full moon. The sun is in Cancer at 24 and the moon is in Capricorn at 24. So the symbol here in Cancer is a woman and two men castaways on a small island of the South Seas. And I want to remind us that the sun is close to the north node, and that's the direction that we should take. So the Capricorn side is the side that we should transmute, that we should transform and restructure, right? And the Cancer north node is the prow of the chart, or the direction that the ship is going. So this is the focalization of complex inner potentialities in harmonic and concrete relationships. And I'm still reading Dan Rudier. We're dealing here with a special phase of the process of integration. The woman and two men represent the threefold aspects of human personality, particularly at this stage when one of these aspects, the emotional life, the woman, is facing the possibility, if not the inevitability, of relating itself to both the spiritual and the mental. So the emotional life here in Cancer has to relate to the spiritual and the mental. So we need to be inspired by divinity, but we also, and intuition, but we also need to be reasonable and logical. So we need to, this emotional life needs to reconcile the three aspects of our personality: emotional, mental, and spiritual. This confrontation occurs on a small island of the South Seas. And South always refers symbolically to the strong and passionate impulses of human nature. So somehow this threefold consciousness has to develop a harmonious and well-integrated modus vivendi, or a specific way of living. If successful, this will release powerful energies and will lead to the next symbolic scene. So we have reached the fourth stage of the 23rd five-fold sequence. As it is most often the case, we are introduced here to a specific technique, or at least to a problem of technique in living. The three human beings should become integrated. So, as I said, emotional, spiritual, and mental. So, but the form this integration will take seems left open. It has to be a concrete type of integration in terms of the emotional and biological drives of human nature, the island in the South Seas. And the field of integration is small, a small island. The key to the problem of relationships should be the realization of interdependence. Interdependence. So, see, there is this need to reconcile the yin and the yang and to have it work together in order to generate life and let it thrive. So, the previous eclipse in January was at 10 degrees of Cancer, and I would like for us to read this also. And I'll put the link in the description box of the video, because it's interesting. If you're interested in reading it again, you can find them on that web page. A large diamond in the first stages of the cutting process. A large diamond in the first stages of the cutting process. So remember, that was the first fully eclipse fully in Cancer, right? With the nodes in Cancer, because the previous one last summer was in Cancer, but with the nodes still in Leo. So this was the beginning of the cutting of the diamond. The arduous training for perfection in order to fully manifest an ideal. Was the ideal, I said, to reconcile and rebalance the yin and the yang. We're still dealing with the evolution of consciousness and of personality at a preliminary stage. The potentiality of a completely formed mind through which the light of understanding will shine brightly is already in evidence, but much work is still to be done. We may meditate upon the transformation of the pond of water in the preceding symbol into a diamond not yet cut. The conscious mind must acquire solidity so it can be worked on by higher agencies, ideally by the teachers of the community. If not, doubt must be a painful operation for the rough stone. But the goal is worth the suffering, the heat, the grinding noise, provided, of course, the diamond cutter is an expert craftsman, a rare case among teachers. At this last stage, um, we once more deal with an operation which, when completed, will acquire a social value. Remember, it will be of a social value. So when fully grown, the game bird, first stage, may satisfy a hungry stomach. One cut to perfection, the diamond may fill a woman with pride. A diamond, once cut to perfection, may fill a woman with pride. As keyword, we suggest craftsmanship, here meaning especially the training for perfection. So the diamond of the young energy, right? Cut to perfection in a beautiful shape of a diamond may fill a woman with pride. So I hope this symbolism helps and inspires you to think, what are the energies inside yourself, the yin and the yang energy, and how you need to rebalance those energies in order to achieve this harmony, uh, in order for us to collectively achieve this harmony in society, and to determine uh, a new paradigm, a new way of forming, a new way, a new form, new structures that can make us be safest, safer, and happier, and to enjoy real love. Sorry about that. Enjoy the real love for each other instead of looking for cheap forms of low love, cheap forms of pleasure, cheap forms of entertainment that don't satisfy us inside spiritually, because we are spiritual beings having this wonderful physical experience, and we're learning how to do it, right? And so far we have made many, apparently that's the way we have done it that way. So but it doesn't mean that we need to keep doing it the wrong way. It means that there are other ways to do it. If we look inside and we discover what are our receptive energies, how are we receiving, how are we giving, are we imposing ourselves, are we forcing ourselves on others, or are we willing to humble ourselves in order to receive, and humble ourselves in order to give? So there's no meekness in humility. No, on the contrary, there's strength in humility and in meekness. There is this this way of living in love that we can overcome any um, challenge. We don't need to abuse other people, either children or anyone, or abuse the earth, or abuse animals, or there's no need to do that in order to satisfy our needs, our emotional needs. There's no need to be violent or aggressive or selfish or forceful. So there is real strength in the softness. There's real strength in the softness if we know how to use it. So, and okay, I end this. I hope I didn't bother. Yeah, I didn't. Oh, okay. There are words that escape to me. I am ruled by Mercury, actually. I am Virgo rising. So whenever Mercury is retrograde, there's kind of, I have those glitches in communication and language and all kinds of things. So excuse me for that. And I hope this helps. If you have ideas to share about this subject, I welcome you to make comments and like the video and share it with other people who might be interested in the subject. And thank you for watching, and goodbye for now. Bye.